think you're free, but what if you're not? What if the endless chase for pleasure, social media, fast food, entertainment, even comfort, is silently enslaving your mind and robbing you of your spiritual awakening? Aldous Huxley warned us decades ago, we wouldn't be controlled by fear, but by our own desires. And that prophecy is unfolding right now in your daily life. If you've been feeling disconnected, anxious, or stuck in a loop where nothing ever feels enough, this message is for you. You'll understand how modern systems are designed to keep you numb, distracted, and spiritually asleep, and how to break free. This isn't just theory, it's a roadmap to reclaiming your focus, your energy, and your inner power. Are your pleasures actually bringing you peace, or just keeping you busy? Do you feel like something deeper is calling you, but you can't quite reach it? Stay with me. By the end of this video, you'll see reality in a way most people never will. This isn't about rejecting joy, it's about reclaiming control. When you learn to see through the illusions, you'll start choosing what truly serves your soul instead of what sedates it. There are two kinds of pleasure in this world. One is quiet, like the warmth of sunlight on your skin or the soft hush of wind through trees, and the other is loud, insistent, and restless, flashing like neon and leaving you wanting more, even as you feel less. In this modern life, the line between them has blurred. We often mistake stimulation for joy, mistaking motion for meaning. The gentle contentment of being present is lost beneath the noise of constant distraction. And so the question arises, are we truly seeking joy, or simply trying to outrun our pain? You reach for your phone not out of wonder, but to fill a silence that feels unbearable. Each scroll, each click, each swipe, it's not a pursuit of pleasure, but a flight from stillness, a refusal to sit with what is stirring beneath. There is a pleasure that opens you, deepens you, draws you toward something sacred. And there is a pleasure that closes you, distracts you, and leaves you hollow. One nourishes like rain soaking into thirsty soil, the other floods then drains, leaving you parched and yearning. This isn't a rejection of pleasure, but a remembering, a call to notice which pleasures awaken you and which merely anesthetize. Perhaps the deepest joy isn't something you chase, but something you notice when you finally stop running. And in that stillness, you may find that joy was never missing, only misplaced. Pleasure is not what we think it is. It isn't found in the moment of having, it lives in the chase, in the subtle spark of anticipation. That spark is called dopamine, and it's not the substance of joy, but the engine of pursuit. You are wired to seek, to strive, to move toward reward. This ancient system was meant to guide you toward survival, to find food, connection, shelter. But in this world of artificial plenty, the machinery has been hijacked. Modern life bombards you with signals, endless scrolling, instant messages, sugar, sex, noise. Each one a lever that floods your brain with dopamine, again and again, until the mechanism wears thin. And so you press the button, not because it brings pleasure, but because you've forgotten how to stop. The result is a kind of spiritual dullness, a fog that dims the senses, a weight behind the eyes. When everything becomes easy, mystery disappears. When reward is constant, reverence fades. We weren't made to be constantly satisfied. In the sacred rhythm of life, hunger had its place. Waiting was part of wonder. But now, we've outsourced desire to algorithms and impulses, and the soul is starving for something real. This isn't just biology, it's the erosion of attention. When every sacred pause is interrupted, when every whisper of longing is drowned in noise, you lose the capacity to listen inward, to feel the quiet beauty of the moment without needing it to entertain you. The pursuit was never the problem. But when you forget what you're truly seeking, the chase becomes a cage. Silence is not empty. It is a mirror reflecting the stirrings of your soul and the whispers of your deepest self. Yet for many, silence is unbearable because it reveals the noise carried inside, the restless thoughts and hidden fears. You fill every quiet moment with sound, movement, and distraction. Your phone buzzes, the TV hums, music plays, anything to avoid the stillness that invites reflection and demands presence. Pascal said, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." This discomfort with solitude is not weakness but the shadow of disconnection. When you never face yourself, you never truly know yourself. So the world becomes louder and louder, not to soothe, but to silence what lies beneath the surface, the ache of longing, the questions without answers, and the sacred spaces where transformation begins. If you dare to sit in silence and breathe into the stillness, you may begin to hear the quiet truths waiting for you all along. Your deepest self does not shout. It speaks in whispers, in pauses between thoughts, in the space before the next breath. It is there, in that delicate stillness, that healing begins and awakening stirs. But to arrive, you must first overcome the fear of being alone with yourself. We believe we choose freely, yet much of our attention is quietly guided and shaped by forces beyond awareness. The choices you think are yours are often nudged, programmed by algorithms and environments designed to keep you engaged, clicking, consuming. True choice exists, but it is narrowed, limited, and often invisible beneath layers of distraction. Technology itself is not evil, but when we become passive users, surrendering our attention without question, we trade freedom for convenience. Real freedom begins when you reclaim your attention, when you recognize that you are not your cravings but the deeper self observing those cravings. Your desires are echoes of a hunger far beyond dopamine or habit, a hunger for meaning, connection, presence. When you start to notice how your attention is pulled, how your mind is shaped by invisible hands, you begin to awaken. Freedom is not found in the abundance of options, but in the conscious choice to step away, to turn off the noise, and to return inward. Walking into nature, away from screens and endless stimulation, is an act of rebellion and reclamation. In those moments, you remember what it means to be truly free, to be present, undistracted, and alive to the richness of the now. Aldous Huxley's Brave New World imagined a society controlled not by fear or force, but by pleasure, where people are subdued through endless comfort and distraction. Unlike Orwell's vision of oppression through surveillance and violence, Huxley foresaw a gentler captivity, a subtle sedation through amusement and instant gratification. This soft control is more insidious because it feels like freedom, yet it numbs awareness and dulls the spirit. The pleasure that was meant to liberate becomes a weapon that chains you to distraction, to endless consumption. Today, we live in this unfolding prophecy. Bright shopping malls, streaming services, and smiling faces mask a society slowly surrendering its depth to curated comfort. What we call freedom may be little more than carefully designed sedation. When pleasure is used to anesthetize rather than awaken, the soul's hunger goes unmet, and true liberation slips quietly away. The chains are invisible, woven from desires stoked and managed by forces you rarely see. Recognizing this is the first step toward breaking free and reclaiming a life lived fully awake. In a world filled with noise and surface distractions, the soul quietly suffers. We crave depth, meaning, and connection, yet we settle for fleeting stimulation that never truly satisfies. The sacred speaks in silence, ritual, and awe, yet we often avoid these subtle invitations, preferring the louder, easier entertainment. Mystery fades, replaced by endless consumption that leaves the spirit parched and restless. The soul's language is gentle and patient, but when ignored, it grows faint, drowned beneath the rush of modern life. When you stop seeking the sacred, you lose touch with what grounds you beyond the material. Transcendence is traded for algorithms, awe for scrolling, and stillness for noise. This loss is not just personal. It ripples outward, shaping how we live and relate to the world. Yet the sacred remains, quietly waiting in ancient temples, in stars overhead, in the flicker of a candle. To reconnect is to remember that the deepest hunger is for presence and meaning, not distraction. The cost of forgetting is high, but so is the reward of returning. Reclaiming your attention is an act of gentle revolution. Practices like a dopamine detox, a digital Sabbath, or mindful simplicity help you rediscover what it means to be fully present. In boredom, once feared and avoided, lies a gateway to creativity and insight. When you choose conscious pleasure over compulsive distraction, you invite depth back into your life. Simple acts, sitting quietly for 10 minutes, walking barefoot in nature, journaling your true desires, become powerful tools to reconnect with your inner self. Presence is not something you find in the rush of sensation, but in the quiet moments of intentional being. By stepping away from the noise, you make space for clarity, healing, and transformation. The path to awakening is not about rejecting pleasure entirely, but about choosing it with awareness. When you reclaim your attention, you step out of the cycle of craving and into a life that feels rich, meaningful, and free. You begin to notice how rare true silence has become in your life, how often you've traded moments of stillness for noise, distractions filling every crack of your attention. But when you deliberately slow down, a space opens within you, a quiet chamber where your thoughts can settle and the deeper voice of your being can finally be heard. This silence is not empty. It is rich with presence and possibility, waiting patiently for you to return. As you cultivate this inner stillness, you start to see the subtle ways your cravings manipulate you. The urgent pull of your phone, the restless tapping of your fingers, the endless loop of seeking something new. These are not signs of freedom but chains of distraction. Recognizing these patterns is the first step in loosening them, like waking from a dream where you believed you were free but were actually trapped. In this awakening, you learn that freedom is not the absence of desire but the mastery of attention. It's the ability to choose what to focus on, to resist the lure of quick fixes and instead embrace the slower, more profound pleasures of being. Freedom reveals itself in the small moments: a deep breath, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the feeling of earth beneath your feet. You also come to understand that presence is an act of love for yourself and the world around you. When you pay attention fully, without judgment or haste, you honor your own humanity and the sacredness in others. This attentiveness heals the fractures created by hurried living and scattered focus, knitting together a sense of wholeness and belonging. The journey back to presence is not always easy. Old habits tug at you, whispering promises of comfort through distraction. Yet each time you resist, you strengthen your capacity for awareness, like a muscle growing stronger with exercise. This resilience becomes your armor against the seduction of superficial pleasure. With practice, boredom transforms from enemy to ally. In those quiet moments when nothing seems to happen, creativity stirs, insights emerge, and a deeper connection to life takes root. You learn to welcome these pauses, knowing they are the fertile soil from which wisdom and meaning grow. You realize that technology and modern comforts need not be enemies if approached mindfully. They become tools you use rather than chains that use you. By setting boundaries and choosing when and how to engage, you reclaim agency over your time and energy, creating room for the sacred to enter. Ultimately, the return to presence is a gentle revolution, a quiet reclaiming of your life from the grip of distraction. It is a daily commitment to wakefulness, to choosing depth over surface, stillness over noise, and authenticity over performance. In this commitment, you find freedom, not in more pleasure, but in deeper being. And here's something to hold close. Freedom is not about doing more, it's about doing less with more intention. It's about recognizing that every moment you reclaim from distraction is a moment gifted back to your soul. It's in the small acts of resistance, the phone left in another room, the silence welcomed rather than feared, the breath taken deeply in stillness, that you build the sanctuary inside you that no external force can touch. This sanctuary is your true home, your source of power, and your wellspring of peace. When you build this inner refuge, the noise outside may continue, but it no longer controls you. This awakening is not a destination but a practice, a daily choice to notice where your attention goes and to gently guide it back to what matters. It requires patience, compassion for yourself, and a willingness to feel the discomfort that often precedes growth. But through this process, you cultivate a freedom so deep it cannot be taken away. The freedom to be fully present, fully alive, fully you. So today, as you listen to these words, I invite you to make a quiet promise to yourself. To step back from the endless chase, to breathe into the stillness, and to begin the journey home to your own soul. Because the world outside may never stop shouting, But you can learn to listen to the silence within. And in that silence, you will find the freedom you've always been seeking. If this message resonates, consider subscribing and joining our community of seekers. Here, we explore presence, meaning, and the quiet power of awakening, one step at a time. Life is not a series of fleeting sensations but a sacred unfolding, a deep and timeless journey. The world will always offer distraction, endless invitations to numbness and escape, but you have the power to choose presence instead. To fast from pleasure for a day, to observe your inner dialogue without judgment, is to step into awakening. You are not here to be entertained. You are here to awaken. The soul does not rise with dopamine, it rises with attention. In that attention, in that waking, you reclaim your freedom, your depth, and your life.